Pluto, the god of the underworld, is stationing retrograde today, and this is extremely significant because it is tying into the story arc that we are going to be experiencing this autumn when Venus is retrograde as well. And Mercury plays a very important role in this whole constellation as well, and this is what we are going to be talking about today. And hey everyone, I'm Amia from Resonance Astrology. We are going to be breaking down a transit today that I woke up and I just felt that I need to make this video. I had something completely different in mind. I wanted to record the Uranus and Gemini horoscopes, but this just feels extremely significant to me. So once again, this is a very channeled video. I hope you enjoy. I hope I'm not gonna yap all over the place, but I do have some important key dates written down where, yes, because I was just a bit mind blown. Even as an astrologer, like I know certain things, but then some things it gets revealed to you later on. And I just had this nudge before I was going to bed. And mind you, my phone is, I tried to put my phone away so it's not right next to me in bed. And I just had this nudge where I was like, something about this is so tight to Venus retrograde this year. And then when I woke up, I started doing a bit more research. And so we have Pluto is stationing retrograde today, but when Pluto stations direct again, that's going to be around October 15 or 16, depending on where you're living. At this point in time, Venus will already be in her direct motion. And where will Venus be? At 5 degrees of Scorpio. 5 degrees of Aquarius is the stationing degree of Pluto today. So this 5 degrees of fixed signs is at a very, very, very potent and important degree that we're going to have to take a look at. Mercury during this time on October 15, 16 is going to be at 17 degrees, but Mercury will station retrograde shortly after. This always happens when there's a Venus retrograde. Mercury is also retrograde at some point in time during that cycle. And it's also a very interesting story here because when we look at the whole story and the myth of Persephone, where she gets, threshed in the underworld. We have Venus, which is Persephone, we could say, and then, Hades is the underworld, it's Pluto. And then who kind of comes to her rescue? Well, it's Hermes, that is Mercury. So this whole story arc is even more present just because all the actors, like Pluto is also extremely involved in this whole story arc. And so while Mercury isn't yet retrograde during that time and is at 17 degrees, so it's not at 5 degrees, Mercury is going to station retrograde on October 24th. But when Mercury stations direct, it's going to do so, you guessed it, at 5 degrees of Scorpio. So 5 degrees of Scorpio is also Mercury's stationing degrees, or where it's going to do its post and pre-shadow period, okay? So, and when do we have this square, right? We're having a Pluto and Mercury square right now. Mercury's in Taurus at 5 degrees of Taurus, right? Of course, because then it's going to square Pluto at 5 degrees. So these 5 degrees of the fixed signs are very important. If you have any placements at exactly 5 degrees or give and take through 3 degrees more or less at the fixed signs, this whole story arc is going to be important for you. And the cherry on top of all of this is that the moon will be in Capricorn again during that time. When Mercury stations direct at 5 degrees. So there is definitely a story arc that is going on between, and Venus is involved right now as well, even though we might not fully see it because she's not doing a visible aspect. But Venus and Mercury are currently in mutual reception with one another. So Venus is in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign, and Mercury is in Taurus, which is Venus's sign. So they are forming a hidden bridge. They can suddenly communicate in signs, right, that are next to each other, that by nature are in aversion. They're quite different. Taurus and Gemini energy are kind of like opposite sides of the spectrum, if you will. But now through that mutual reception, this is always kind of like this hidden ace card that you have in a deck where it's like, oh, but they are communicating, they are working together. And especially right now, I think there is, a lot can happen between the part in your chart, so the houses that Gemini and Taurus rule, which otherwise would not be able to communicate with one another. Now there is a synthesis that is happening. There is a bridge that is happening. And all of that, whatever is happening in your life today, around this time, is going to be prominent and important again in October. Okay, so, 15, 16 October is when Pluto stations direct again, but I think this is really tied to the whole Venus and also Mercury retrograde story. So I would say the whole of October and November are going to be very important around what is happening today. Like they're going to continue the story that is currently happening in your life. So whatever is up, it's going to get a continuation. And I would actually also like to, because now I'm just like throwing facts at you, but I would like to read you a small passage from a book I love very much. And you might have already heard me read from this book, but if you haven't, because there's a lot of new people on this channel since I last read from this book, it's just, I think it's so good. Everything that has to do with like 8th house, 4th house, 12th house, but also just Pluto in general this book is amazing for this, like from an archetypal level. James Hillman, love James Hillman. And I want to read you something here because it's gonna give us a bit more insight, like on an archetypal level, and what is currently going on. There's also, I think, if you've been having any intense dreams right now, this is also, that is 100% the Mercury square Pluto, because Mercury, Pluto together, they like to excavate, they like to go super in depth. And again, because this is happening while the station from Pluto is happening, I really feel like there's a lot of unconscious material that is wanting to come to the surface and get into the conscious realms. And this is obviously not always very, very pleasant. And usually what our brain does, and it's amazing, right? It's amazing that that's what our bodies do to process things, is that we process things in dreams. We process things in dream images. And and that's why we're going to look at the dream and the underworld right now. So there is a whole passage around Hades, and I think that is going to be the one that is most prominent. And I do, by the way, also read from this book in the newest video from the Meet the Planet series on Pluto. It's just like much longer, so if you do want to do a deep dive on Pluto, or obviously there are also segments you can click through the timestamps, highly recommend. Like if there is one point in time where you should watch this, it's now. Like the Pluto video is important to watch right now. And I'll probably also again in October. Yes. Okay, we're going to read the chapter on Hades. And there is one reference I underlined here, which says nature loves to hide, then nature loves Hades. And this will make a bit more sense in a second. But I want to read mainly this part because we're gonna understand Pluto a bit more. Okay, so he is so invisible, in fact, that the entire collection of Greek antique art shows no ideal portrait of Hades, such as we are familiar with other gods. Hades' name was rarely used. At times he was referred to as the Unseen One, more often as Pluto or as Trophonius. These disguises of Hades have been taken by some interpreters to be covering euphemisms for the fear of death, but then why this particular euphemism and not some other? Perhaps Pluto is a description of Hades, much as Plato understood this god. Then Pluto refers to the hidden wealth or the riches of the invisible. Hence, we can understand one reason why there was no cult, no sacrifice to him. Hades was the wealthy one, the giver of nourishment to the soul. Sometimes he was fused with Thanatos, or whom Aeschylus wrote, "Death is the only god who loves no gifts and cares not for sacrifices or libation, who has no altars and receives no hymns." Which is funny because there is like an Orphic hymn to Hades, but Never mind. On vase paintings, when Hades is shown, he may have his face averted, as if he were not even characterized by a specific physiognomy. All this negative evidence does not coalesce to form a definite image of a void, an interiority or depth that is unknown but nameable, there and felt even if not seen. Hades is not an absence, but a hidden presence, even an invisible fullness. And I think that part, thinking of Pluto as not an absence, but a hidden presence, always there, I think that describes Pluto extremely well, especially because, Pluto is the god linked to death. And I think these realms, these thresholds, and why also Pluto is linked to death and rebirth, they're so closely tied to one another. And they're intense. These thresholds are intense. So of course, Pluto is also a freaking intense planet because sitting at this threshold of life and death, where you're like neither fully there or the other realm, like that is intense. And a lot of these practices, spiritual practices, go on about, like contemplation and meditation around the impermanence of thing, and constantly, talking about death is talking about life. When you know the fact that death is always around the corner, Hades is always not an absence, but a hidden presence, always lurking somewhere, you can actually live life more fully. Pluto is always going to be there, always going to wait you. And I think I talked about this in another video, so I'm going to make it a bit more brief. But there was, in this mask building course that I participated in, where you build your mask, but that's not the point. Essentially, there's another thing that you do, and that is mask plays. And I just had this urge to put on the mask of this person and made a mask about death. Like, it was clearly death. And what happened when I was on stage is that I just felt so extremely calm. Like, it was so calm being in that mask. And I was just wondering back and forth. Like, you go into an archetype when you put on this mask, like you think you know what you're going to do. Like, no, you're going to maybe do something completely else. And then there was this other mask that came into the play, and that was like kind of full of life. And I was just guiding the mask to eventually, lie down. And it was so peaceful. And there was something so confronting, thinking that this is probably, hopefully, what death feels like a warm hug and a welcome back home. And that's something to sit and contemplate with. But this video is not specifically about that. There's a few other things that I want to say here. Yes, Hades, the hidden hider, presides over both the crypt and cryptic, which gives to Heraclitus' phrase, nature loves to hide, which we talked in the beginning, a subtle and multiple implication indeed. And then there's a passage which I find very peculiar and interesting, where James Hillman talks about Hermes and Hades. Hermes and Hades are Mercury and Pluto. So Hermes and Hades share a certain style of covering their heads that both hides their thoughts and perceives hidden thoughts. It is their intentions that become invisible. We cannot perceive where their heads are at, though we may have the sense of a hidden watch over our inmost thoughts. Because we can never discover what their covert minds intend, we consider them deceptive, unpredictable, frightening, or wise. Yes, when we consider the house of Hades, we must remember that the myths, and Freud too, tell us that there is no time in the underworld. There is no decay, no progress, no change of any sort, because time has nothing to do with the underworld. We may not conceive the underworld as afterlife, except as the afterthoughts within life. The house of Hades is a psychological realm now, not an, oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher that word, eschatological realm later. It is not a far-off place of judgment over our actions, but provides that place of judging now and within the inhibiting reflection interior to our actions, which again, extremely interesting considering that in tarot, the judgment card is ruled by Pluto. So is there... Let me just see if there's anything else that is worth saying here. Well, I guess this part, which okay, this is really this is probably my favorite part of this whole book. Yes, this unknowable goal is the only absolute sure event of the human condition. Hades is the unseen one and yet absolutely present. The call to Hades suggests that all aspects of the process of the soul must be read finally, not only as part of the general human process towards death, but as particular events of and in that death. Each facet, then, is a finished image in itself, completing its purpose. That is at the same time unending. Not literally unending in time, but limitless in depth. In other words, we can stop nowhere and anywhere, because the end is not in time but in death, where death means the telos or fulfillment of anything. Or we can stop anywhere, because from the final point of view, everything is an end in itself. The goal is always now. And then I guess the important question that I underlined here is, what is the purpose of this event for my soul and for my death? Something to absolutely ponder today. Yeah. Absolutely love this one. Are there any other quotes? I feel like there might be something else maybe with Mercury, but I don't want to. I mean, and I think dreams are just interesting because they bring forth so many, like, things don't make sense in the realm of Hades. I think that is like a very important part that we need to think about today. There is, like, not everything makes sense, right? Like, sometimes the things that want to come to the surface, we're like, why now? Why is this happening now? But you are getting an opportunity, because the point of everything of life and death is always now, the present moment. You heal the past in the present moment. You heal the future by being in the present moment and taking an action. It's always about now. And so whatever is coming up for you in your life right now is meant to be looked at, is meant to be excavated and seen and witnessed. What Hades is always doing, right? I think that is actually an amazing practice to do if you want to do it today, of any of the days, is to really, like, just be fully present with yourself and witness what wants to come up in your life right now without judgment. Because Hades doesn't have any judgment. It's just here to guide you. Hades is a guide. Again, not like a presence that is always there. Right? Always there. Hades has been with you throughout everything you have done in life. All the shameful moments, all the amazing moments. Hades has always been there with you. And if you want to get into the realm of Hades by yourself and invoke this, then maybe this is a good practice for you to do today. Okay, I think this is everything that I wanted to channel that wants to come out right now. Let me know how this is landing and resonating with you. It feels extremely, important for my life right now as well, in my personal life, but it still has to unfold. Yes, I'm wishing you a lovely, lovely time. I texted with someone recently where I told them, every time we meet, it feels like a small death and rebirth together. And we have a bit of a strong Pluto synastry. So, like, no wonder. And, and then I thought it's so interesting how we always always wish people a good life. Have a good life, have an amazing life. But you know what I'm going to wish every one of you today? I wish for every one of you to have an amazing death as well. Hopefully. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I hope you can experience it fully in the present moment with Hades guiding you home when the time arrives, whenever that is. So I wish you an amazing life and death. Much love. We're going to talk to each other very soon.